speaker has been recently voted the world's second most influential communicator in social innovation, and how lucky are we to have him right here. Ladies and gentlemen, without any more suspense, please put your hands together for the one and only Jon Duschinsky.
Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing today? Disrupt or? No, you don't want to do that. Disrupt? Come on, where are you people? I know it's nearly lunchtime, but give me some more noise. Disrupt? Die? It's like we planned it, isn't it? Fabulous! It's such a pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you to our fabulous MC and to the organizing committee who's put this fabulous event together. We are going to be going on a bit of a journey over the next 45 minutes together. I know that this is the session before lunch. They said, Jon, you've got to keep everybody awake. All they want is noodles. I said, I'll do my best. All right. So I want you to stay with me. We're going to take this journey. I've called it Disrupt or Die, because really that's what I think we need to be thinking. That's what we need to be doing as entrepreneurs and as people who are driven to change the world. I want to see a hand up from everybody who is in this room because they dream of changing the world. I want to see hands. Fabulous. Right. Anybody not really interested in changing the world? Good. Right. We've all come to the right place. So this is going to be a bit of a journey. I want you to come along this journey with me. I'm going to throw some thinking at you. I'm going to throw some new ideas at you. Hopefully, I'm going to challenge you. And we're going to start it all off with a little video. Okay, so statistically that means that at least one of you was downloading a song illegally during that video. Ladies and gents, we live in exponential times. And so what does this all mean? Often I see audiences where they look at these statistics that come at us. There are some people who go, oh no, make it stop. And there are some people who go, yes, this is the world of tomorrow. Now, what it all means, I believe, can be summed up really, really simply. The world has never moved this fast. We agree with that? Right. It will never, ever move this slowly again. Let me say that again. The world has never moved this fast, and it will never, ever move this slowly again. Industries across the world are being disrupted. They're being disrupted by ideas coming from left field, by new channels that you didn't anticipate. The fabulous panelists who are up here just before me were talking about how we go about thinking and challenging ourselves. We don't want to be another one of these. The reality is, ladies and gents, that disruption is such a common part of the world that we live in today. It is such a powerful, powerful, people-generated, ideas-generated movement that we need to disrupt, or we will become the next Kodak. This is the harsh reality of the world that you are entrepreneuring in. It is the world where one has to recognize that today, only 2% of the Fortune 500 are over 100 years old. And in fact, if you dig further into those statistics, what you recognize is that over 50% of the Fortune 500 have disappeared in the last 12 years. The key biggest driver in the US today for job creation isn't size of company, isn't age of company, it's how old the company is. If you're young and you're smart and you've got a great idea and you're disrupting, that is where the future is being created. And the future is being created in ways that we cannot even begin to comprehend yet. That's what's so exciting about it. Behind me is a statistic that comes from a lot of work that we've been doing recently in the space of the future of work. 47% of all jobs in America will be replaced by technology in the next 10 years. 47%. Now that figure is going to be a little bit lower here in Malaysia, but I want you to think about that. When you look around the room, at least a third of you will need to have different jobs within 10 years. The world has never moved so fast, and it will never move this slowly again. And what that means, ladies and gents, what that means profoundly is that we need to understand the macro and we need to understand the micro. We need to look at what are the big drivers that we can see here. And we do a lot of mapping at the Conversation Farm, which is the firm that I run. We're based in North America. Here are the big four. Okay, we all know about them. Demography, yes, we've got aging populations, we've got shrinking populations, we've got populations that are very young, like in this region. We've got populations that are very old, like in Japan, like in the US. Fabulous. Okay, so we know about demography. Education's an interesting one. Because the education system that trained all of us was an education system that was built and designed in the industrial world to make sure that we had a mass of cadre of people who had a relatively good level of skills and they could operate the machines that would drive the Industrial Revolution. That's what our education system was built on. Today, we don't need a lot of people to operate the machines. What we need are the creative thinkers that we have in this room. We need a new education system to create more people like you, rather than more people who are there to move things from one side to another. Climate, we know the huge impact that climate is having on macro and micro levels in technology, where we're all here to talk about technology. Okay, so we've got 4 big trends, not new. What does that actually mean? Well, one of the things that we discovered looking at how these trends are impacting work and how they're impacting society was that actually we're living in an era of brand new economics. And this era of brand new economics is being driven by small and medium-sized enterprises. It's being driven by people like you. It's being driven by people who have a drive to change the world, because the classic theory of economics, right behind me over here, there we go, nice little circle, starts at the top. You increase your productivity. As you increase your productivity, that allows you to do what? Well, that allows you to increase your output, because you can make more stuff. You increase your output, what does that allow you to do? Well, you're making more stuff, you need more people to move your factory through, so you can increase your employment. As you increase your employment, what do? Well, you increase your income, you make more money. You can then reinvest some of that money back over here in increasing your productivity, and the whole cycle begins again. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Economics 101 from Adam Smith onwards until about 2008. But it don't work anymore. In fact, it's fundamentally shifted. Because the new reality today, and we're all part of this, is that as you increase your productivity, what it allows you to do is to shrink your workforce. And we're moving towards a world where productivity increases, but yet median income does not increase. It's what economists are calling the decoupled economy, where productivity goes up on one side and living standards go down on the other. Now, that is not an economic model for success anymore. Adam Smith economics got us to today. It will not get us to tomorrow. And as entrepreneurs in this room, or as people who are the incumbents, you've got to recognize that the playing field has changed. It has changed profoundly. The whole basis of economics as we know it has shifted. What has it shifted away from? Well, this is the model. This is today's economic model. Yeah, it's based on harvesting resources, which you then process, allows you to sell a product or a service. Consume the product and service, and then you throw it away. You get a new one. Who got a new smartphone in the last 12 months? Yeah, right, my point exactly. Okay, who needed a new smartphone in the last 12 months? No, you didn't. No, none of you needed a new smartphone, unless you'd fallen on the floor and stamped on it. Yeah, you didn't need one, but you are in the principles of today's society where you consume and you discard. And at the core of that society, at the core of that economic model, at the core of Adam Smith pre-capitalism, post-capitalism economics is waste and a fundamental lack of environmental authority and accountability. Now that model's changing. Do you want to see what today's model is? No, we want to see what tomorrow's model is. That's what we're interested in here. Tomorrow's model, ladies and gentlemen, is this one. It starts at the top with ingenuity. Resources are replaced by ingenuity. The fundamental truth of business is that it's driven by imagination. The fundamental truth of profitability is that it's driven by ingenuity. And today that has never been truer. Ingenuity becomes the principal driver of tomorrow's economic model. That leads to value creation, which leads to what? Not more things that we consume and throw away. What it leads to is a better quality of life. Ask yourself this, and I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up. Would you rather have a better quality of life or more things? Now, I know this is Malaysia, and I know about shopping in Malaysia. I know you guys have got to deal with the shopping thing, yeah? But eventually, now I was working with an oligarch in Russia recently. He said to me, John, can I do the accent? I don't know, let's try. He said, John, I just have bought yacht number 5. What do I do? Where do I spend my money? He has amassed all of the things that we could ever possibly hope to amass. What he's searching for is quality of life. And I believe that each one of you, if you put your hand up to my question earlier about making a better world, each one of you are truly driven by quality of life rather than amassing things. That becomes part of the circle. What quality of life gives us is agency, empowerment, the feeling of, yes, I can. The feeling of confidence that comes from doing your first deal and getting your first investors around the table and going, I know somebody else out there believes in me. That agency drives your ingenuity. It drives you to push further. It drives you to push more boundaries. It drives you to break whatever glass ceilings may have been on top of you. And at the heart of that model, ladies and gentlemen, is sustainability and is zero waste. That is where we are going, my friends, because the same thinking that got us to where we are today will be hopeless and useless in getting us to where we need to be tomorrow. As Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And that means, my friends, that innovation is yesterday. We don't need to be doing the same things better. In fact, we don't even need to be doing new things. What we need to be doing is doing new things that make the old things obsolete. That is where I want you guys to be. That's where we all need to be. And what are some of the areas? Well, the folks at the Collaborative Lab have done some great work on this. Areas that are ripe for disruption, complex experiences, things that are difficult. Yeah, Uber versus a taxi in Malaysia. I'm choosing Uber. Sorry to the taxi drivers. Broken trust. Let's move on. Redundant intermediaries. How many of you still use travel agents? Unlimited access. Be that from Mohammed Yunus and Grameen Bank giving access to credit, all the way through to M-Pesa and the work they're doing in Kenya to give access to banking through cell phones. These are the areas of disruption. But I'm going to argue that we can go beyond this. I'm going to argue that today the areas that are ripe for disruption are every area of business. Which means, ladies and gents, if you're in this room and you're an incumbent, which means you run a company, you're going to be disrupted. You know, the only constant today is change. It's true, isn't it? The only constant is change. So the only thing that I can guarantee you, if you are the CEO or on the senior management team of a company here in Malaysia today, is that somebody is going to disrupt you. And there's a good chance you won't see it coming, because it'll come from a different channel. Because back to Kodak, one guy in Silicon Valley decided to put a camera into a phone, and suddenly Kodak was no longer a thing. So, if you're going to be disrupted, you better become the disruptor. Wherever you are on the food chain, from small entrepreneur with a great idea, all the way up to CEO of big Fortune 500 company, if you are not actively becoming the disruptor, then somebody else is going to do it for you. And so what we're going to spend a bit of time on today is, how do we disrupt? Because there's a lot of talk about this, isn't there? It's one of these kind of buzzwords, disruption. Yeah, I want to be a disruptor. Yes. Innovation is so last century. I want to go for disruption. There are books written about it. There are white papers written about how you disrupt. There's this theory coming out of your ears. And most of it's good. But how does that help you? Well, the company that I run does behavior change. That's what we specialize in. Specialize in moving people's behaviors from behaving one way to behaving another way. So let's say we have people who are not funding a disease and people who are dying from a disease. Well, we shift behaviors so that we have a cure for the disease. Or we have people who are driving very badly, which you don't do in Malaysia, which is fabulous. Driving very badly. And we shift behaviors so that they're driving a little bit better. That's what we do. That's what drives us. So we spend a lot of time with people, trying to understand people, what drives us. And I've come to the conclusion that disruption is a bit of a subtle art. And it's a subtle art based around people. Now, this is a bit controversial, because if you think about how we talk about disruption, we talk about it in terms of ideas, ideation, hackathons, yeah? First thing we need to disrupt is we need to have great ideas. Okay, great, that's fabulous, that's really helpful. But then we need to execute them properly. Back to what we were talking about on the stage, the three panelists who were here before me. The British UK cycling team. Really great execution. But I think there's a piece to the disruption puzzle that doesn't get enough airtime. And that is getting people to change the way they feel. Because you're not a disruptor on your own. You can stand in the corner and wave your arms around as much as you like. You can take the greatest technology, the greatest new idea, and put it out to the market, and it can drop like a stone. What makes the difference is people. Think about this. Steve Jobs. Yeah, innovative, disruptive. The guy disrupted music, he disrupted computing, he disrupted banking. The list of industries that Apple disrupted is huge. But is anybody else in this room a Mac person or an Apple person? Yeah, you know who you are. I know who you are too. I can see you. We speak the same language, don't we? I get you. I know that you try telling me that my iPhone is just circuits and glass and aluminium, and I'll be very rude to you. This is an extension of my soul. I have an irrational relationship with this thing here. Completely irrational. I mean, why else? You can get a perfectly good tablet for $100. Why would you go and spend $500, $600, $700 to get one made by Apple? Is it much better? Would it fulfill the same function? Yes, it probably would. But it's not about function, it's about purpose. And it's not about purpose even so much as belief. Ladies and gents, it's about people. What made Apple the great disruptor was that people loved the brand, was that people created an irrational relationship with the brand. And if you are going to disrupt, you need to have many, many, many people having irrational relationships with you. I know, that sounds scary. Don't tell your wife or your husband. Okay? You know, I came to this conference, and there was this guy with fuzzy hair, and he stood up on stage, and he said, what I really need to do is get the whole of Malaysia to have an irrational relationship with me. I think you need to quit the job. But that's what we need to be doing, ladies and gents, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. The first thing you need to do is you need to give people a reason to want to engage with you. Then you need to give them something fun and easy to do. And finally, you need to give them the tools so that they can be the ambassadors for change. Right, let's unpack this, because this is super, super important. Super important. Let's unpack each one of these three, and I'll explain what I mean. Give people a reason to engage with you. Right, okay. Let's think of a good example. How many types of soda do you have in Malaysia? Go, start counting them in your heads. On your fingers. Okay, I'm at 24. That's a lot of sodas. You know, when I was a kid, on my way to school, I used to walk from where the bus would drop me off back to my parents' house where we lived, and I would walk past a corner store. It was run by a fabulous guy called Ahmed, and I would walk in every day, and I would go to the fridge. It was one of those fridges, you know, those Coke fridges. You open the door, and then inside there's 5 or 6 shelves with different drinks on. I'd open it up, and I'd take a soda. And I remember vividly, there would be Coke, there would be Pepsi, there would be a thing we had in the UK called Ribena. Yeah, really. Yeah, you used to give it to children so their teeth fell out. And then we had an orange thing called Fanta. And that was it. That was all he had. You know, I found myself in the UK recently. I went to visit my parents, and I was walking that same route, and I went in to see Ahmed's shop, and he's still there. He is, which means I'm not as old as I thought I was. And I go up to him, and we're chatting, and we're catching up, and I turn to the fridge, and I open the fridge, and I was expecting 5 drinks. You know how many I counted? 32. And there was water. I was a kid, you didn't buy water in a bottle. You mean nuts? Crazy. 32 sodas. Choice, ladies and gents, choice. We live in a world of complete and utter choice. Each one of you today will receive 3,000 to 4,000 advertising and marketing messages. That's 3,000 to 4,000 companies competing for a little bit of your brain space. And even if you think you've had a really, really, really good idea, even if you think that the idea that you're bringing to the world is the smartest, sexiest, most wonderful idea ever, somebody will be along shortly with a better one. Because that's the world we live in. So people have an immense amount of choice. If you're bringing something to the market today, the only way it's going to work, the only way it's going to be disruptive, the only way your idea is going to fulfill its potential is if you make people choose you. Let me give you an example. So, behind me is a quote. It says, "The same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg." It's about what you're made of, not the circumstances. It's about what you're made of, not the circumstances. What is important here, my friends, is what have you got here? What is in your soul, what is in your gut, and what is in your heart? Because that is what is going to make me choose you rather than your competitor. That is what is going to make me align with you and get excited about being part of your world. Anybody recognize any of the brands on the stage here? Any of these? Yeah, there's a good chance that if you came to this conference today not smelling and in relatively clean clothes, that P&G was part of that. So Procter & Gamble recognized that they had a problem because they have a lot of brands. And those brands communicate on function, don't they? Wash whiter than white. Clean your teeth. And they go, ding. Yeah, have you ever done that? Have you ever been standing in front of the mirror and gone, ding? Why does that? It doesn't happen, does it? No, okay. So here they've got lots of products that communicate on function, and they recognize that function is no longer enough to get people to choose them. So do you know what they did? They took this brand of P&G, the one up the top, the one with the P and the G, which they had never in 100 years communicated on, and they made it stand for something so that people could stand next to it.
P&G, proud sponsor of Moms.
So one of the nice things about doing this job is I get to watch you watch that. And I have to say, there were a couple of you doing this just a little bit. P&G gave people a reason to choose them because they said that what is at the heart of our brand, what is at the heart of our company, is that we champion mums. How many mums in the world would like to be championed? Hands up if you're a mother in this room that would like to be championed. Your hand went up really quick. I hope that's not your husband sitting next to you, otherwise we have to talk afterwards. Yeah, they understood where people were. They understood what was important to people. They also understood that 80% of their audience were women. But they didn't just produce a nice idea and then nicely execute it. You know what they did? The senior management team of Procter & Gamble, this was 2012 for the London Olympics, they took the corporate tickets to the Olympics that they had been given, and they gave them to the mothers of athletes from the developing world. And they invited them to London so that they could watch their children compete. Now, I don't know about you, but that gives me goosebumps. Pretty cool, isn't it? Why? Because you know who they are. They become real, they become human. They become a set of people with real values, and you can relate to them. I want you to do the same. I want you to articulate what's important to you, and I want you to get out there and do it. And before you might say to me, oh, John, well, that's really nice, and it's a great PR exercise, I need to show you that it actually generated $500 million worth of revenue for them. So this is not about being altruistic. This is not about changing the world because we change the world. Changing the world and making money are two parts of the same whole. You change the world and you make money. You make money by changing the world, and you do the same. You do the two together. So the first thing, ladies and gents, is you've got to give people a reason to engage with you, like Procter & Gamble did. The second thing is that you have to give them something fun and easy to do. Let me give you another example. Here, behind me, is a quote. Benjamin Franklin. Let's read it together. Teach me, and I forget. No, tell me, and I forget. Stop turning around to see the board. I've got it down here. I don't know why I'm trying to crane my neck. I'll just read it off here. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. We want consumers who are learning with us. We don't want people who are just taking our product and using it. We want people who are on the same journey with us. I do, therefore I become. Remember, I do behavior change. I get people to change the way they behave. Yeah? I do, therefore I become. So you start off by giving them a reason to want to choose you. The second thing you do is you give them something to do. Now, the beauty industry came to us a little while ago and they said, we have a problem. We have a big business problem. And our big business problem is this. We have built our entire business model on retail. If you think about this, beauty, perfumes, all of these kind of products, you buy them in stores. If you go to Galeries Lafayette in Paris, you walk in and all you see is beauty companies. Yeah, that is their route to market, is retail. But in a digital world, with a world of digital disruption, it becomes much easier to bypass retail. You don't need retail anymore to get your products to market, which means that the beauty industry has a problem. They need to find ways of getting people to choose them, and they need to stand for something. The other thing they came to us, and you'll see the picture behind me, breast cancer and the pink movement was actually founded by the beauty industry. Estee Lauder was the company that first did the pink ribbon that has now been synonymous around the world with breast cancer. It was never given any protection. It was never patented. There was never any IP associated with it. It was a free-for-all, and so today it's being used by a lot of people in not perhaps the best way. In the US, you can buy pink handguns. Now, rightly, the beauty companies think of that as a reputational risk. So, they have a problem, which is reputational risk and the fact that the world that they live in is being disrupted. So what do? They champion something new. They disrupt their own market before somebody else comes in and disrupts it for them. How did they do this? Well, they went out and they listened to women, and what the women told them were that cancer was being portrayed in the media as this emotional, powerful journey. Particularly in North America, a friend gets cancer. What do? Well, you put on a wristband or you run 5K for them. But that actually cancer was a horrible, horrific journey. It was medical, it was cold, it was hard. And when we dug into this a bit further, what we recognized was that only 3% of the money put into cancer goes to emotionally and psychologically supporting women through the cancer journey. And men recognized that because their wives or their sisters or their aunts, or their daughters had been through cancer and they saw how hard it was. Women recognized it, and so what the beauty industry did was it gave people something to do. So out went the beauty industry and they said, it's not okay that these women are suffering through cancer and not enough is being done for them. We're going to name the problem. We're going to name it as the cancer blues. The cancer blues. So they created a whole brand. We created a whole brand around the cancer blues. And then the beauty industry asked people across Canada, small test market, people across Canada, if they would do something to show their support for the cancer blues, if they would put on blue eye makeup and take a selfie. And over 10,000 people did in 24 hours. Stand for something. Give people a reason to choose you. And then give them something to do. The third piece of the puzzle, my friends, is then give them the tools to be ambassadors for change. Because you will not disrupt on your own. You will only disrupt when you have a following. You will only disrupt when you have a legion of people who believe in you and who believe in what you stand for. You will only achieve what you possibly could achieve if you are standing in the background and allowing others to carry your message to the rest of the world.
That was really cold.
And after I dump this bucket of ice on my head, I get to nominate 3 new people to challenge. So I'm going to challenge Bill Gates, my partner at Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, and Netflix's founder and CEO, Reed Hastings.
I'm here to join the people bringing attention to Lou Gehrig's disease by taking the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I'm going to challenge 3 more people. Elon Musk, Ryan Seacrest, and Chris Anderson of TED. Consider yourself challenged. You have 24 hours. Good luck.
I'm ready for the ice now. 3, 2, 1. No problem.
You gotta love Kermit the Frog falling over with a bucket of ice. The Ice Bucket Challenge, ladies and gentlemen, was the biggest movement that the world has ever seen. 2.3 million people poured a bucket of ice water over their heads and then stuck it on YouTube. 2.3 million people. It raised $120 million just in the US. And it was all started by this one man. His name was Steve Gleason. Steve used to play football for the New Orleans Saints, an American football team in New Orleans in the US. Steve was diagnosed with ALS in 2011. He came to us at the end of 2013 and he said, I want to do something nobody has ever done before. He said, I want to disrupt the Super Bowl. You familiar with the Super Bowl? Yeah, it's this small football game they play every year in America, which is only watched by about 1.2 billion people. 5,000 journalists from around the world cover it. And it is the biggest media circus I think I've ever seen. Steve said he wanted to disrupt it. He said, enough of ALS. Enough of this disease. We're going to take the biggest sporting event in the world and disrupt it. Here's how he did it.
ALS doesn't just kill you, it shuts you down, little by little, bit by bit.
It starts small. Maybe it's holding a pencil that gets difficult.
Or getting up from your chair. Then you find it hard to turn the pages of your book.
Because you can't move your fingers.
Your mind keeps working, but your body doesn't respond.
You won't see it coming because no one knows where it comes from.
Soon you can't hug your mother or pick up your child.
You won't be able to tie your shoes.
You don't need to tie your shoes because now you can't walk.
You can't eat or shave.
Or laugh or sing.
First you can't catch your ball, then you can't catch your breath.
ALS doesn't just kill you.
It steals your life, a little bit at a time.
And it doesn't stop until there's nothing left.
Unless we stop it first.
Unless we stop it now.
I'm Steve Gleason. Let's put our heads together and find a cure for ALS.
If you're having a bad day, remember that your bad day doesn't compare to Steve's bad day. Think about the courage that it took for him to put himself in front of the world on that film. That film was made with stars of the American football world, a community who came together because they shared the same values. That film was given to journalists at the Super Bowl, and out of it came anger. Out of it came a discussion. Out of it came the beginnings of what turned into the Ice Bucket Challenge. But you know what the most important thing was? Out of it came a community. Because for the first time, people who had suffered from ALS, themselves, the patients, their families, suffering from this horrific disease, for the first time, they had somebody who stood up for them. For the first time, they had hope. For the first time, they had a champion. And they embraced that hope. And they came together. And because today conversations happen virtually as much as they happen physically, we listened with Steve to the conversation. And the conversation that these patients and their families were having was a conversation of anger and frustration, both at the scientists and at the rest of the world. And emerged from that conversation leaders in a community of people who said, no, it is not okay for us to go quietly into the night. No, it is not okay for us to simply just die. We will not accept the status quo. And out of that, frustration. One summer day, a woman in Boston poured a bucket of water over her head because she was so angry at her husband and his ALS and the fact that there was nothing she could do. And what she did was send the video of her doing that to Steve Gleason, to Pete Frades, to other people who'd begun to lead this conversation, this community of people who shared the same values, who felt the same way about the world. These were the people who created the critical mass and the community of people who believed the same thing that led to the biggest phenomenon we've ever seen called the Ice Bucket Challenge. Ladies and gents, the lesson that we need to take from this, the lesson, the important, the critical lesson, is that at the heart of everything you do is community. You need to give people a reason to engage with you, then you need to give them something fun and easy to do, and then critically you need to cultivate a community of people who believe the same things, and you need to give them the tools to go off and get out there, ladies and gents. This is the reality that we live in, and disruption is not about great ideas so much as execution, so much as really about changing your attitude. It's really about saying what we need to do is we need to gather people together because it is they who will change the world. And this is not easy. This is not easy. What we're asking you to do, what I'm asking you to do today is about the equivalent of doing this. This is not easy work, ladies and gents. But if you have a true passionate belief in what you can do and what you will do, then this is the path that you need to tread. Because you are going to get disrupted. And if you're an incumbent, you need to be doing three things. You need to incubate startups so that they can start challenging your products. If you're a big bank, if you're a big insurance company, if you're a big transport provider, the first thing you need to be doing is incubating startups within your own company so that you're challenging your products from inside. Why get disrupted from somewhere else? Disrupt yourselves. Then you need to acquire the companies who are out there doing the disruption. And the final thing is you need to make your top team think like a startup. These are three things. If you are in this room today and you are leading a company here in Malaysia or elsewhere in the world, these are the three things you can be doing tomorrow that will make a difference to your business and to your resilience. And if you're here taking your very first steps in the world and you want to be a unicorn, anybody here want to be a unicorn? Yes, of course we do. Yeah? Stand for something so that people can stand with you. Don't just give them a product or a service. Recognize that we've got a new economic world. Give people something to do and build a community of fans and ambassadors who can sell you better than you could ever sell yourself. That is how we create unicorns today, ladies and gents. And today, right now, we have to recognize that as we step back and we take this journey together, we've started recognizing that the world has profoundly changed around us. We've started by understanding that this is about a new economic world, that we're moving from a consume and discard economics to an economics where we are putting value and quality of life and ingenuity at the heart of it, and we're putting sustainability at the heart of what drives us, because we've recognized that disruption is happening, it is all around us right now, and that we want to be part of it, and we're going to do that by giving people a reason to choose us, by giving people something that they can do so that they can be part of the solution as well. And then we're going to create tools so that they can get out and they can sell their opportunities. Those are the things that people are doing to change the world, ladies and gents. And if you want to be doing that, I want to see you on your feet right now. If you are part of that generation who will change the world, I want to see you on your feet, ladies and gentlemen, because this is our opportunity. Here in Malaysia right now, we have an opportunity to get out there and change the world. This is a beautiful day.